Hey guys, Dr. Morris, Injury Experts. If you haven't been here before, I am Dr. Jesse Morris, a sports medicine physician in Miami, and we are going to talk about players heading into Week 11. Whether you're watching this because your favorite player is injured, you're looking at it for fantasy reasons, or you're looking at it for betting reasons, we are here to help. So there's about 70 players on my list. A fair share of them are old, but there's about 20 new guys. I removed some of the guys that are relatively healthy now. And if you are looking for timestamps, you're going to go to the YouTube version of this video. The one on Twitter will not have it just the way we upload it. With that being said, I do quarterbacks, running backs, and then wide receivers and tight ends to give you an idea. Traditionally, we have a pretty good sense if guys are going to play on Thursday. There'll be a fantastic game tonight in a couple hours. I'm going to get it out for that before you so that you can set your lineups for that and for Sunday. There are 4 teams on a bye: Arizona, Carolina, the Giants, and the Bucks. Next week, there are 6 teams on a bye. You have to prep for next week now. Okay? There are no teams on a bye in Week 13, and then the final 6 teams are on a bye in Week 14, which for some people is playoffs. So keep an eye on this. You have to prepare for this because next week it may be too late. Let's start. Kirk Cousins, right throwing elbow, right throwing shoulder injury, not overly concerning, just more of a formality in my opinion. This dude plays through everything. The only time he's missed a game in the past, 7 years is due to his Achilles. That was really the only thing. Patrick Mahomes has been dealing with that lateral left medial ankle sprain for a couple weeks now. He retweaked it in week 9. Huge matchup against the Bills. Not overly concerning. They added a hip to his report. Again, not overly concerning. Sam Darnold somehow sprained or bruised maybe his right throwing hand. It was a limited practice capacity yesterday. I haven't seen the update today, but I'm not overly worried about this. He will be good to go. Not really much of a concern. If it was a fracture, we would know about it. CJ Stroud, very similar situation. Right hand injury. They're playing on Monday night. Full practice today. No concerns. Dak Prescott, unfortunately, underwent season-ending surgery yesterday in New York, probably at HSS. And we will see, presumably, Cooper Rush for most of the rest of the season unless they decide to put Trey Lance in there. Just an overall drop, in my opinion, in the offense. But you'll probably have to, you're still going to have to play CeeDee Lamb and maybe Ferguson and whatnot. Trevor Lawrence initially said, hey, this is likely to be season ending. He's dealing with a left non-throwing shoulder, probably type 2 or maybe type 3 AC sprain. With that being said, they said, hey, after the bye, he's likely to come back. So I don't know which one it is. I'm going to go with, hey, maybe they realized this is pretty bad. We'll see how it plays out. But hopefully he can come back because Mac Jones looked absolutely dreadful, and I'm expecting that to continue this week. Jalen Hurts should be fine with his ankle injury tonight. Baker Mayfield is on a bye. Lamar Jackson still dealing with that knee injury. If I had to guess, it's probably a knee sprain, likely the PCL again if I were to guess, but we don't have any specifics on this at all. All I know is he's going to ball out, and I have no concerns. Jordan Love should be close to 100% from his groin injury. Start him with confidence. Hopefully the offense can look a lot better. Aaron Rodgers banged up, but he's going to play. And Will Levis has a very tough matchup, but he should be better than last week, at least in terms of health. For running backs, Miles Sanders got lucky and did not fracture his ankle like I thought there was a good chance he did. Maybe he comes back after the bye. Maybe it's a couple weeks after that. Pretty much irrelevant, though. Chuba Hubbard suffered a patellar or kneecap dislocation. Not a big deal, more annoying than concerning. He's done it before. They're on a bye. Next week, we'll likely see the debut of Jonathan Brooks. Aaron Jones dealing with a rib injury, probably rib cartilage injury, similar to Jalen Daniels was dealing with previously. And I think he'll play through it. I think, he'll probably get a pain-killing shot. No concerns with him if he's on the field. You start him as usual. Najee Harris went from a DNP Wednesday, which is kind of what he usually does, to, yes, full practice today. And yes, he will be okay. This dude has not missed a game in his entire NFL career, if I remember correctly, or at most one. He didn't look the best last week. Jalen Warren looked better, so I think it may be a little bit of a committee again, but Najee Harris is going to play, in my opinion. Tank Bigsby has been dealing with ankle injuries for the past month. He's been off and on. I believe it was a DNP yesterday. Just hard to really trust him right now, especially with Mac Jones at the head. Tyler Allgeier is more of a backup, but he tweaked his quad. Probably going to play through it. Kareem Hunt, likely the last week of his bell cow status, because I think Isiah Pacheco is probably going to make his debut in week 12. And we will see, realistically, Hunt dealing with a minor knee injury, but he will be fine. He'll play through it. And then Josh Jacobs dealing with a quad injury, which is a little surprising coming out of the bye, meaning it was not enough for it to go away during the bye. If this is a quad strain, like T. Higgins is dealing with, a little bit of a different story than if it's a quad bruise, which is usually more annoying than concerning. Nonetheless, he practiced, I believe, limited capacity, so I think he plays. I'm not overly worried about it. As I mentioned, Isiah Pacheco, good chance he returns next week. I don't think he plays this week with a fibula fracture, ankle fracture. It does not sound like he had any ligament damage, which is part of the reason why he's able to return at the normal time limit. And he could pick up where he left off. He has fresh legs, even though one of them was fractured, much fresher than Kareem Hunt. And he is a beast when he's on the field. So I don't think he'll have long-term issues with this. Fractures usually heal pretty good, and it could be go time. If you still have the chance, might want to try to trade for him. MarShawn Lloyd is very close to returning from his probably high ankle sprain. He also had a hamstring injury. I don't know if he's going to be ready this week, but he'll be back probably in the next week or two. We'll see Brian Robinson tonight with his hamstring strain. I think they were likely saving him for this game as opposed to playing on Sunday and possibly missing this game. This is a huge game tonight. I have my reservations about starting him against the Eagles, but if you have to, you have to. I mean, if he's one of your top 2 or 3 backs, it is what it is. James Conner's on a bye. Christian McCaffrey looked very good, at least in volume concerns. He is limited capacity yesterday. I haven't seen today's report. I'm expecting more of the same. Realistically, no concerns with him. He may get a massive amount of volume. Jordan Mason was actually on the sideline and did not practice today. I don't know if he injured himself. It was 2 or 3, 4 touches, whatever he had. But it's kind of irrelevant at this point. Tony Pollard is dealing with that foot injury, probably a midfoot strain if I were to guess. And yesterday, DNP, today more of a mild, limited practice. I expect him to play. Gus Edwards coming off of likely a high ankle sprain, limited, but he'll be okay. He looked decent last week. Jamaal Williams, I do not think he plays. This is probably more of a moderate grade 2 groin than a mild one. We'll see. Dameon Pierce, on the other hand, I think he actually might end up playing on Monday night. He was able to get in a limited practice today. ETN's been okay, at least health-wise, for the past week or two. Tyjae Spears is off the injury report, but not quite 100% from his hammy, but he will get some work this week. And Nick Chubb will probably be fully ramped up by now, but we're going to limit our expectations overall for him. So realistically, Tyreek Hill, we got some concerns last week. Didn't know if he was going to play. Usually he does, and he did. Didn't do a whole lot. He got lucky that he got, falling into the end zone, but he injured that left wrist. He's been dealing with it. He's going to play through this. He just has not been very effective. Maybe he can do something this week in a fantastic matchup. Do not practice yesterday, limited practice today. I expect him to play. Xaiver Worthy landed on his shoulder, probably his right AC sprain if I were to guess. Not overly concerning. He hasn't really been doing a whole lot anyway. DeAndre Hopkins popped up in the report today with a knee injury. Not overly concerning. Could be a re-aggravation of that old MCL from the preseason. Could be a new issue on either knee. But he will play in a great matchup. Should be a fun game. Davante Adams popped up with a wrist injury as well as illness. He did not practice yesterday or today. I have not heard any more than that. We will have to keep an eye on this, assuming that it's just a sprain and not a fracture, and assuming that the illness is really what's keeping him out and not the wrist. We'll keep an eye on this. Garrett Wilson is a start either way. Van Jefferson, now of the Steelers, is dealing with a quad injury, probably a bruise, and I expect him to play. CeeDee Lamb should be close to, not 100%, but he's closer, but it's hard to trust that offense right now. Chris Olave obviously placed on IR, possibly season-ending IR with his 5th documented concussion. A.J. Brown plays tonight, not really worried about his knee. DeVonta Smith, I'm not really worried about his hammy. He does have to be a little bit careful, but I think he'll be okay. Drake London ended up doing really well last week with no issues, but his partner in crime ended up actually suffering, Darnell Mooney suffered an Achilles injury. Realistically, we are talking about a significant, body part. I'm not worried per se that it's a tear. I'm more worried that it is a tweak or a inflammation. So realistically, I think that he'll probably play, but we'll have to keep an eye on this pretty closely. This was a late edition on Thursday, which I usually do not like. So I might do a separate video on this. But keep an eye on the stuff that comes out on Friday regarding him. And if he can't go, he's been a top 10 to 12 player. Obviously, we have to keep an eye on that. Moving forward, Michael Pittman looks like he's going to come back this week. His back injury really bothered him last week and knocked him out. Darius Slayton's on a bye. Keon Coleman reportedly is out this week with his wrist, probably fracture. But remember, I should say there's rumblings that he flew to Germany to get treatment, a la Christian McCaffrey. And my guess is he will probably come back after the bye, or at least try to. Sterling Shepard also on a bye. Nico Collins probably returning this week. They were being extra cautious. Still a limited capacity practice today, which is a little surprising because it's Thursday and he's already had, almost basically another week to heal, but we'll keep an eye on that. Jawan Jennings, he's dealing with that psoas injury. Should be better this week than last week, but again, looks really good. Even though he's probably in the wide receiver 20 to 25 range, not super worried about him. I would start him if I have to because he's looked really good. Mike Evans on a bye, but should be back next week. T. Higgins is close to returning. I have not seen whether or not he ran up the hill today or yesterday, but if he did, then there's a very good chance he's going to play. I think we are close to seeing him at worst next week, but I think there's a very good chance he plays this week. Puka Nacua, will be better with each week with his knee. He looked pretty good last week. Amari Cooper, I expect to play despite limited practice with his small fracture in his wrist. And probably, hopefully not having to wear that cast because it may bother him. Brian Thomas Jr. Should play with his rib cartilage injury. Gabe Davis, semi-irrelevant, but should play also. DK Metcalf should be back in full force with his grade 1 MCL sprain of his left knee. Not super concerned about re-injury. He's given it enough time. Should be good to go coming out of the bye. Juju Smith-Schuster could return this week with his hammy. I believe he was a limited capacity or maybe even close to a full capacity yesterday. Curtis Samuel could be relevant this week, secondary to his pec injury like he was last week. Because Shakir is out, because Dalton Kincaid is likely going to be out. I'll tell you about that in a sec. And you'll see Dawson Knox, you'll see Amari Cooper, you will see Curtis Samuel, and you'll see James Cook end up getting a lot of work. Let's finish up strong with the tight ends. So George Kittle suffered a hamstring likely re-injury last week. Did not practice yesterday, but it looks like he was a limited practice today. He has a tendency to play through these injuries, so I have a feeling he's going to play, and you're going to start him if he's active. Dalton Kincaid, on the other hand, I do not think plays. Suffered left knee injury, likely PCL sprain based on just the video. He has not practiced yet this week, 0 for 2. They have a bye next week, although it would be nice to have him against the Chiefs. I just don't think it's going to happen. So maybe we'll see an uptick in Dawson Knox, and then we'll see probably Amari Cooper as well as Khalil Shakir as the main three options. Maybe a little bit of Curtis Samuel. Sam Laporta is not going to play this week, in my opinion. Why? DNP ×2, AC sprain in his shoulder. Not a big deal. If this was an important game, he would probably play, but they are gearing up for the playoffs. Not really a big deal for him, so I do not think he plays this week. I would avoid him if he is active. Hunter Henry dealing with a mild foot injury, probably a mild midfoot sprain. He's a decent streamer option if you need to, but it's not someone I would go out of my way to start. Jake Ferguson dealing with an illness, probably going to play. It usually doesn't hold him out, and it's still pretty early in the week since I believe it's a Monday game. Isaiah Likely looking like he's returning with his hamstring strain. Kyle Pitts should be better with his hammy. And then a couple of other guys, David Njoku had been dealing with an ankle. He should be fine after the bye. Noah Fant still dealing with that groin strain, possibly more of a mild injury, so we'll have to keep an eye on that, depending on how he works out the rest of the week. And TJ Hawkinson should be 3 weeks out now. Looked really good last week, so maybe he gets even more volume. I love his end-of-season schedule. Part of the reason why I drafted him in a lot of my leagues, because even though I had to wait for him, I knew he could potentially smash when the time was right. If you like this type of content, do me a favor, smash a thumbs up, subscribe. Good luck on your bets. Good luck in your fantasy matchups. Hopefully you're geared into the playoffs, and we will have a fantastic game tonight, and I will see you on Sunday night for the injury wrap-up. And if there's any big injuries between now and then, I will take care of those for you too. Take care.